2025 City Council interviews for the 2025 Boards and Commissions Annual Appointment Process. Thank you for joining us in this hybrid meeting format. For work sessions like this one, where there is no opportunity for public comment, those wishing to access the meeting can do so by watching the live stream available on our website, the broadcast on Comcast Channel 21, or by calling in to one of the phone numbers listed for this meeting on the public webcast and meetings material webpage. In case of a medical emergency, an automated external defibrillator is located on the counter behind the staff located to your left on the west side of the room. In case of emergency evacuation, emergency exits are through the double doors located at the back of the room. The doors to the patio can also be used as needed. Again, thank you for joining us. And now we will begin with calling the April 14th, 2025 City Council work session to order. Applicant statements. Tonight's meeting is an opportunity to hear from selected applicants to the city's council-nominated boards and commissions. Each candidate will have 3 minutes to present their qualifications and reasons for applying. Additionally, Planning Commission candidates will also be asked to respond to 3 predetermined questions following their statements. Our meeting moderator will announce each of the candidates when it's their turn to speak. Before we begin, I'd like to thank our community members who took the time to apply to serve on a board or commission this year. Tonight, we will hear applicant statements from the following board and commissions: Budget Committee, Citizen Review Board, Human Rights Commission, Planning Commission, Sustainability Commission, and the Toxics Board. Please note the council is not scheduled to make appointments until June 9, 2025. Staff?
Thank you, Councilor. Our first speaker this evening will be Aiden Bassett, followed by Thomas Boyett. Aiden, I'm going to allow you to speak in Zoom. Go ahead whenever you're ready.
Good evening, councilors. My name is Aiden Bassett, and I want to start by thanking you all for taking the time to consider the applicants to citizen advisory committees this evening. Because several of you have previously served on these committees, I know you respect their importance in helping make recommendations for the stewardship of this city we love. Let me tell you about myself. My degrees are in economics and law, and as a young attorney passionate about state and local government, I've taken an active interest in the finances of cities and counties across the state. OPB has recently reported that 21 of Oregon's 36 counties will face budget shortfalls in the coming fiscal year, including Lane, and the state itself faces a budget shortfall of several $billion. Together with the fact that we've seen sharp reductions in recent years in the 35% of state funds that come from federal dollars, I believe that this is a moment for the Budget Committee to take on a greater role than it has in recent years and partner with yourselves to make the kinds of reductions in city funding, in city revenues that are necessary, given that we are not dealing with the kinds of resources we have had in recent years to invest in vital services. I think we've seen in recent years a need to raise revenues in novel and sometimes unpredicted ways, and that these are not always uncontroversial. As someone who believes very strongly in the sensible, conservative allocation of taxpayer dollars to top city priorities, and believes that it is vital that we live within our means and provide all the services that local residents expect from the city, from public safety to public health and everything in between. It's essential that the Budget Committee provide real insight from the firsthand experiences of folks of all backgrounds, As a renter myself, I know that people face all sorts of housing pressures. As a young attorney, I have a lot of insight into the challenges that cities face in raising new revenue. Bonds are challenging to get approved and are expensive ways of raising new revenues. Tax increases are also not uncomplicated and not unpopular. So I believe it's critical in the coming fiscal years, as Eugene, like its peer cities, faces a serious fiscal crunch, that it gets strategic and realistic about shortfalls it will face, where it can access new revenues if possible, and make smart conservative decisions about how to best devote its resources to serving the city's essential needs. Thank you so much for my consideration, and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, Aiden. Our next speakers are Thomas Boyett, followed by Cindy Hanks.
Good evening, Council President Evans, members of the Eugene City Council. My name is Tom Boyott. I'm here to talk a little bit about my interest in the Budget Committee. I have just a few points to make, the first of which is I categorically love this community. I've lived here for over 40 years. As much as I've been a part of this community, Eugene has become a part of me, if you will. It's informed the person that I am. My second point is that we'd probably all agree that volunteerism is critical to moving our community forward towards excellence. And I mean, if it's kid sports coaches or Meals on Wheels or, you know, Habitat for Humanity, you name it, these public committees and commissions included. I'm at a point in my life where I have more wherewithal to give back to this community that I love. And notwithstanding some of the looks I've gotten from friends when I've talked about the Budget Committee, or, you know, maybe they've been too polite to say what was on their mind. We're all pretty aware of the current fiscal health of the city. I'm putting myself forward. And the reason for that primarily is that I have probably 35 years experience in budgeting. 20 of those is in municipal budgeting. I've done just about everything there is to do in crafting a budget, presenting a budget to Budget Committee. I've been a department head. I've also been on a school district Budget Committee. I've recommended budgets up, and I've been a decision maker on budgets in 2 different nonprofits and as an elected school board member. So I appreciate where you're at, where you're coming from. And you know, obviously I've managed those budgets. I believe strongly in fiscal discipline. It's always better to come in just a little bit under. But budgeting is policy making, and the choices are not going to be easy. I don't really envy the current Budget Committee and what this group is going to face. Just to sum up, I think I have demonstrated personality to do well in this environment. I'm a strategic thinker, I'm analytical. I also fairly creative, and I collaborate. I'm a good person to have on a team. So with that, I'll yield my 15 seconds to whomever. It's nice to see some of you again. And thank you very much for your time and your service.
Thank you, Tom. Our next speakers are Cindy Hanks, followed by DJ Kelly Quatachi.
Hi, my name is Cindy Hanks. Thank you, Council, for taking the moment to listen to us. I am applying for the Budget Committee as well. A little background about me is I worked in local government for 34 years at the City of Ashland, and I worked in accounting, in finance, and understand government accounting, funds, property tax limitations, as well as producing budgets and working on annual audits is what I bring to the committee if I am chosen. Excuse me, I am new to the city of Eugene, but am an Oregonian, born and raised here, but I feel like I could contribute as a member of this community. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Cindy. Our next speaker for budget is DJ Kelly Quatachi.
Evening, Council. I'm a resident of Ward 7 and also applying for the Budget Committee. I have a combination of professional and personal experience that would be really usable on the committee as a unique perspective. Professionally, I've been a director of housing and oversaw a $2.5 million housing budget with full oversight and opportunity for creative ways to increase revenue and decrease expenses. Throughout my career in higher education, every role has required me to not only manage my own budget, but understand how the larger budget landscape of an institution impacts every budgetary decision. Most recently, I've been a small business owner, and I am making every decision to ensure that I have fiscal stability and success. I've learned a lot as a small business owner, and those lessons are not something I'm taking for granted. It's made me more than someone who understands budgets from just one lens. I am now more creative in the way that I understand and see the implications of the work that this committee will do. I also submitted my budget committee for many reasons, but for the interview, we'll highlight two. First, budget and money is where you can tell an organization puts its values. So if you follow the money, you'll see what's important to an organization. It's moments like this that leaders get the opportunity to showcase what they believe, and I would like to be a part of helping Eugene make hard yet important priorities and decisions as we're coming into these budget decisions. Second, I hold an intersection of identities that are typically not represented on boards, such as budget committees. I'm queer, I'm mixed race, Mexican American. I grew up under the poverty line. I worked my way through a master's and bachelor's degree. I've dedicated my career to understanding diversity, equity, inclusion, power, and privilege, and all of that wrapped up into selecting the work that we're doing here. I am excited to jump into the work. I think that it's easy to be intimidated by it, and that's there, but I think it's important that there is excitement in trying to figure out how to build bridges, work with one another around this. If I were to be selected, I would hope to accomplish making the process a little more transparent for community members. I think that while you all do a great job in providing information, I want to make sure that we are also going out to our constituents, to the places that we go, the communities that we see, because we can't just expect everyone to come to us. We have to go to them. Thank you so much for the opportunity, and I look forward.
Thank you, DJ. Our next two speakers for Civilian Review Board are Joshua Burstein and Elise Josephson.
Hi. Good evening, Council. Thank you so much for your service and for considering my application to serve on the Civilian Review Board. My name is Josh Burstein. I've lived in Ward 1 for 17 years. I also work in Ward 1 in downtown Eugene, which explains part of my interest in the CRB. In downtown, I think it's fair to say we see a microcosm of activity from the entire city. I believe that what makes a city successful are things like good schools, economic development, and public safety, among other things. And I feel that I can bring my background, experience, interests, and skills to the area of civilian review, having already contributed to those other areas, including 9 years on the 4J Budget Committee and 13 years in downtown economic development, as you saw in my application. Law enforcement here is a special calling. An officer once said to me, "It's not easy being a cop in Eugene." I think he was referring to the high expectations that we have of our police, who do a good job protecting us, but also the challenges that sometimes community members face from those very same public servants. Back in high school, college, and law school, I worked on issues involving police misconduct and police brutality. Those experiences included assisting residents who had filed a complaint at one city called the Civilian Complaint Review Board, and also in another city drafting legislation to create such a board. To bring it specifically to Eugene, I've attended a number of the CRB meetings over the past year, and I separately met with the 2 independent auditors who have served over that time to learn more about the IA office. I've heard members of the CRB discuss the cases brought to them, and I sat in on presentations from EPD staff on various issues. I believe our goal should be to recognize the difficult job and important job that EPD does. Also, at the same time, to hold accountable those members of the force when things do not go the way they're supposed to. I also feel the CRB can be more than just reactive in reviewing the work done by the independent auditor. It also can be proactive in building relationships with EPD, not only leadership, but also line staff. Also, I would suggest the CRB continue working with other groups in town, as they are already, with the Police Commission, Human Rights Commission, and organizations representing people and communities who may not trust law enforcement as much as others. Proactively creating events and spaces can help bridge that gap. So I ask to be appointed to volunteer for the city in this way. It would be an honor to earn your trust and support for me to serve on the Civilian Review Board. Thank you.
Thank you, Joshua. Our next speaker is Elise Josephson.
Good afternoon, Council. My name is Elise Josephson. I live in Ward 7, and I would be honored to have your support to join the Civilian Review Board. As a lawyer, I've sworn an oath to advance the equal administration of justice for everyone. Indeed, it's crucial to the functioning of my profession. My passion for an equal justice system started long before I took that oath. When I was just 6 years old, my father took me to see my first court proceeding at Medford Municipal Court. My father's a police officer, and on that afternoon, he was appearing as a witness in a traffic infraction proceeding. My brother and I waited quietly in the back of the gallery while our father provided testimony regarding the stop. By all accounts except for mine, it was an extraordinarily ordinary court, but I was enthralled. I could barely wait until I was out in the hallway where the questions began to fly. My team had a very different experience. My mom became criminal justice system involved. She was arrested and arraigned, and I watched as court proceedings ticked by on a long march toward an eventual plea on a lesser included charge. In 2021, I received my Bachelor's of Science in Planning, Public Policy, and Management from the University of Oregon. And in 2024, I received my JD, also from the U of O. It is with that background that I hope to join the CRB. Law enforcement is a delicate balance. Every time someone calls the police, they rely on fairness. Every time someone is stopped in our streets, they rely on fairness. Indeed, even a criminal defendant being arrested in some ways relies on fairness. At its core, our justice system is built on that delicate balance of fairness. It serves important policy goals of promoting public trust, ensuring a well-staffed police force, and advancing accountability and rehabilitation following criminal activity. Unfortunately, for some members of our community, they feel they cannot trust that balance. And that's a threat that strikes at the heart of our justice system. If a victim is afraid of what will happen if they call police, that is detrimental to holding criminals and people who have committed all manner of offenses accountable. Council, I want to help advance everyone's trust in our law enforcement and in that delicate balance by working with other members of the CRB, working with the independent police auditor to evaluate whether or not our use of force policies are being followed and whether or not they're working in the first place. Unless council has any questions for me, it would be an honor to be appointed to the Civilian Review Board. Thank you.
Thank you, Elise. We are now moving on to the Human Rights Commission, starting with Brittany Bana, followed by Jamie Bowman. Brittany, I'm going to allow you to speak in Zoom.
Hi. Okay. Thank you so much. My name is Brittany Bana. I've lived in Eugene for 20 years. I believe in people and in the power of community when it's rooted in dignity, justice, and compassion. And that's what the Human Rights Commission represents to me. I was born in Amman, Jordan. We are a Palestinian family. We moved to Oregon when I was 8, and growing up, I learned pretty early how to navigate systems that weren't designed with people from other countries in mind. So what it means to me to be held and uplifted in a community is something that I want to devote as much of my time and of my life to as possible. I'm committed to creating emotionally intelligent, inclusive, equity-driven spaces. Right now, I serve as Director of Student Life and Social Emotional Learning Specialist at Mansfield Hall at the University of Oregon and Lane Community College. I support neurodivergent young adults to build skills so they can live independently and thrive socially and feel empowered in who they are. I've also worked in domestic violence advocacy, nonprofit leadership, mediation. I'm a certified mediator now for the state of Oregon. And I've also worked for United Nations and UNESCO in global education and equity. I've also been accepted to the Doctor of Education program at the U of O, and I have a master's in conflict resolution law and a master's in community regional planning, as well as a bachelor's in family and human services. So in my work, I focus on transformative leadership, emotional resilience, and community building. And it's such a humbling journey. But in my work, I'm wondering, where can I try to have a little more direct impact, or at least have conversations with other people who really care as well. And so if I have the privilege of joining this commission, I'll bring all of the passion I've put everywhere else in my life to the mission here. I'm especially passionate about youth and disability justice and culturally responsive public engagement. And I really care about helping systems reflect values of healing and equity. I believe that human rights work is about presence. It's just being consistent and listening deeply and helping people feel seen, especially actually when it feels uncomfortable. So thank you very much for this opportunity and for your time. This is a really cool experience. So I hope you have a really great rest of this interview session.
Thank you, Brittany. Our next speakers are Jamie Bowman, followed by Juniper Christofferson.
Good evening, City Councilors. My name is Jamie Bowman. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I am here to express my interest in being part of the city's Human Rights Commission. My wife and I bought a house in Eugene in Ward 7 about a year ago and moved our family into it last July. We were eager and excited to move here from Prineville, a small town near Bend. There, we were some of the only visibly queer residents, which came with stares, snide comments, and some odd behavior from folks we encountered. My 3 queer teenagers went to school in a different town to keep them safer, and while I spoke at library and school board meetings about book bans and curriculum, they refused to spend any time out and about in the town that they lived in for fear of being targeted. I've spent the last dozen years trying to make Central Oregon a place where queer people and other historically erased communities, especially youth, feel safe, seen, valued, and wanted. I led several nonprofits, gave competency training to countless medical providers, teachers, and various organizations. I've been on about a dozen committees dedicated to helping those that are LGBTQ+, BIPOC, and/or houseless in Deschutes, Crook, and Jefferson counties. I've started support groups, including one for parents of trans children, resource organizations, including Gender Hive, an online inventory of healthcare providers for trans folks, and organized countless events, including Central Oregon and Prineville Pride. I've learned so much about what it is to not only be an ally, but an accomplice to communities that I'm not a part of, but whose struggles are similar to mine. I also became so much better at meeting people where they're at, connecting on shared values with people who disagree with me, and remaining curious when I encounter folks who feel strongly about those that are different from them so that they remain open to learning. All things I believe would serve me well in this role. As a plus-size, neurodivergent queer woman who has been houseless and up until very recently a single mother, I know what it's like to not feel like your community wants you or has a place for you. While reading over the goals and missions of the HRC, as well as some of the minutes, I was relieved to see that it appears this group is one that not only spends an extensive amount of time, but also doing what was set up. Assuming coming up that are by those be affected by those decisions. It was a huge adjustment leaving all the work I put into Central Oregon and the community that I built for my family. Admitting that we were not in the safest place for my children was heartbreaking. Because there are changes happening all over the country that reduce safety, restrict access to healthcare, and attempt to eradicate families like mine, children like mine, I know that we're not the only parents that will be making the devastating choice to leave their home and seek a safer place to live. I also know that I don't need to tell you that Eugene is and has been one of those places for decades. I would love the opportunity to be a part of the reason that that continues. The change my wife and I feel in ourselves and see in our children is astounding. Being somewhere where we can see ourselves reflected in community and feeling like that community is made a priority, as well as several others that seem neglected in other places, is new and different.
Thank you, Jamie. Our next speakers are Juniper Christofferson, followed by Vanitha Murthy.
Good afternoon, City Council. My name is Juniper Christofferson, and I would like to speak on my interest in contributing to the Human Rights Commission. I'm currently a first-year student at the University of Oregon, completing a Bachelor's of Science in Neuroscience and Psychology. I'm working towards becoming a psychiatrist that works with high-risk patients. I've volunteered with Egan Warming Shelters, as well as the Maslow Project and Basic Needs Program at UO to implement universal human rights and advocate for equal and just treatment of all Eugene residents. I've engaged directly with educational outreach pertaining to resources and collaboration with other organizations, and have participated in work groups, utilized my creative solutions and creative impactful statements that have been presented to the general public during my positions within the Associated Students of the University of Oregon, Osberg, a student advocacy group, as well as Perfect Pair. I submitted an application for this position partly because I feel as though my previous experience, especially my time on the Youth Advisory Council for the Mayor of Ashland, lends itself well to my duties within the Human Rights Commission. During my time with the City Council, I hope to accomplish a greater level of communication with the residents of Eugene, to understand their perspective and how they feel as though they're being treated, as well as a better logistical understanding of what exactly it takes to restore a higher quality of life among a group. I strongly believe that the protection and promotion of human rights within Eugene affects almost every other aspect of our city, and therefore should be conducted with compassion. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Juniper. Our next speakers are Vanitha Murthy, followed by Elena Uman.
Good evening, City Council. My name is Vanitha Murthy. I'm eager to join the Human Rights Commission, and I also applied for the Sustainability Commission. I appreciate this opportunity to speak to you. My educational background, earning master's degrees in city and regional planning and public administration, give me a deep understanding of public policy, urban planning, and governance. I've been actively involved in advancing diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives with the Oregon American Planning Association, contributing to initiatives that aim to eliminate systemic inequities. I've participated in educational outreach, provided research support for vital equity resources, elevated underrepresented voices through mentoring initiatives, and also which have enriched my ability to engage with underrepresented students and emerging professionals, and also helping launch impactful programs and collaborating with other diverse groups around the country. As a transportation planner, I focused on developing multimodal solutions, transportation solutions that have advocated for sustainability and equity. I've engaged in in-depth commuting studies and policy updates, collaborating with various stakeholders to analyze community needs and recommend actions for ensuring fair and equitable access to resources. Arriving at the Ohio State University, I experienced cultural dissonance, isolation, and at the same time, unexpected kindness from strangers, which was heartwarming. Being away from home, I've known since my early childhood. These early moments instilled in me, working in the Office of Human Relations, the value of belonging, and shaped my love of equity as love in action. I submitted my application because I believe the Human Rights Commission is one of the most vital places, a place where dignity, access, and inclusion are truly embodied through policy and collaborative effort. I'm really drawn to the Commission's approach for centering education, outreach, and interagency partnerships, because this is exactly what I do as a volunteer with about 4 or 5 organizations. And I've learned to navigate complex policy systems while supporting frontline leaders engaged in equity. If appointed, I plan to support the Commission's work in 3 ways: by using policy and engagement experience to foster inclusive community conversations, and by building bridges, much needed today, between city initiatives and community-led efforts. And finally, by upholding the principles of Universal Declaration of Human Rights throughout the city's work. Thank you for considering my application. I look forward to the possibility of serving the city of Eugene with dedication and compassion.
Thank you, Vanita. Our next speaker for Human Rights Commission is Elena Uman.
Hello, City Council members, and thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Elena Uman, and I am seeking to be a member of the Human Rights Commission. I'm a first-year political science student at the U of O, and I'm originally from Gresham, Oregon, but now live here in Eugene in Ward 3. I would be honored to join the Human Rights Commission, as I've come to love Eugene. Since moving here for college last year, I've gotten to explore the city and familiarize myself with the wonderful community. I truly feel at every level of government, especially in precarious times. I wholly agree with the Eugene Human Rights Code in that federal and state discrimination prohibitions are insufficient, and thus it would be an incredible opportunity to help make Eugene a better place alongside the rest of the commission. I have always been a passionate advocate for my community. In Gresham, as a high school, to human rights. I served as co-chair for Gresham's Youth Advisory Council, a committee that tackled youth issues in the city. As co-chair, I led efforts to organize both financial aid and career fairs aimed at high schoolers to give them a leg up, mostly benefiting low-income teens. I was also a student representative for a student health clinic planning committee for the Gresham-Barlow School District. Myself and the team successfully advocated for the school board to unanimously approve the clinic, which now provides free health care to students. The process included community research, listening sessions, and gathering testimonials over the course of a couple years to ensure the center could serve the community in the biggest capacity. Additionally, I served as a student representative for my district's Equity Council, where we worked to identify, investigate, and resolve pressing issues of inequities within the educational system, creating better outcomes for all students. Here, we were able to develop frameworks for including student voices in schools and inspired other districts across the state to do the same. Volunteering on these boards required community outreach and finding common ground in order to make progress. Being a representative in several capacities has both developed my advocacy skills and taught me how to actively seek out voices that aren't currently being amplified so that I can bring their perspectives to the table as well. Overall, I believe my past experiences working in spaces related to equity, justice, and other human rights issues have given me the skills necessary to succeed as a commissioner. Additionally, I believe my experiences as a person provide me with a unique perspective the commission may find valuable. As a university student, young person, and daughter of 2 Indian immigrants, I am familiar with human rights issues facing my demographics. I'm also 19 years old. My age offers me perspective on issues facing young people in the community and allows me to be a voice for them as well. As a student, I am well aware of human rights-related issues on my campus that apply to the broader Eugene community. And if selected, I intend on using my experience in the area and also the perspective my identity offers me to help me drive equity and justice forward, advancing Eugene as a city that truly values human rights. I'm ready to put in the work and learn from my fellow commissioners, and I would be truly honored to serve. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Elena. And next up is the applicants for the Sustainability Commission. We'll start with Jan Fillinger and follow with Vanita Murthy.
Good evening, President Evans and council members. My name is Jan Fillinger, and I live in Councillor Keating's ward at 695 Crest Drive. I'm applying to serve on the Sustainability Commission. I'm a licensed architect and have practiced architecture for 40 years. Over 30 years, I have taught architecture in the Bay Area and at the University of Oregon. With 2 other UO professors, I've co-authored a book on sustainable design. When I was a graduate student at UC Berkeley, I took every class in sustainable design that I could. This was before the word sustainability was in common culture use. After graduating and later in every firm that I was a partner in, I always paid special attention to layering energy efficiency and sustainability into our design work. Our family moved to Eugene in 1997. In 2006, I established my current architecture firm, Studio E Architecture, where, As before, we specialize in designing architecture that combines beauty, functionality, efficiency, affordability, and sustainability in projects that include offices and retail spaces, numerous multifamily projects, and most recently, a small community of 35 sustainable tiny homes, 350 square feet each, for the Lummi Nation in Bellingham, Washington, that will house formerly homeless men and is currently under construction. I have also acted as a developer together with 3 partners from 2006 to 2024. We designed and built 25 townhouses in the Friendly neighborhood, including the conversion of a former church at 28th Avenue and Friendly Street into 3 townhouses. 12 of these townhouses received LEED Gold certification, and all the others were built to similarly high standards of sustainability. I love the science of energy, nature, and the environment. I'm a passionate advocate for sustainable solutions, yet I'm also a pragmatist with a strong grasp of building and environmental science and the logistics of energy production and energy use. In 2014, Eugene passed the Climate Recovery Ordinance, which has challenging goals that will require us to be creative, smart, innovative, and diligent. And now you have the Climate Action Plan adopted in 2020 that works towards creating a livable and equitable Eugene for everyone in our community. Clearly, you, our leaders, understand what our community needs, and you have dedicated yourselves to the best possible future for Eugene. I hope that as a member of the Sustainability Commission, I will be able to assist and contribute to these goals. I appreciate all of your hard work and dedication to our community, and thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Jan. Our next speaker is Vinita Murthy.
Good afternoon, City Council. I'm back again with the presenting my story for the Sustainability Commission. I shall share a brief background on my educational background. I earned master's degrees in city and regional planning, public administration, helping me understand public policy, urban planning, and governance. At the same time, I have worked in transportation projects at the state where I was involved with commuter studies, engaging with studying city to city commuting, and also as a commuter from Eugene to Salem for almost 8.5 years. I so appreciate the value of sustainable transportation, as I commuted by van for almost 5 years and I couldn't sustain it, so I started commuting by car, and that started leading me to wondering about the jobs, housing balance, and the paying jobs in Eugene that could help me stop commuting and limit greenhouse gas emissions I was causing on the highway. Another situation where I had my story is I come from a family that with humble means, where car was not the mode of transportation. I had to use public transportation for my commuting in college. I really that background has helped me appreciate the value of public transportation and advocacy for public transportation. I am a member of the Transportation Research Board, Public Transportation Planning Advisory Committee, and that helps me advocate for solutions that are equitable and also sustainable. I hope by being part of the Sustainability Commission, I'm able to forward solutions that are sustainable and also equitable and just at the same time. Thank you.
Thank you, Vinita. Our next speakers are for the Toxics Board. Our first up is Roxana Merchant, followed by Paul Rescher.
Roxana Merchant, and not as a disrespect to you guys, I'm going to face this way, because I think that, we are all here to serve the public, and that's what I'm here to do as well. So this is for, I think we've lost in the city of Eugene, somewhere along the lines, we've lost the ability to are either by choice or if you are misholding or withholding information from the public, that they have a right to know who around them is causing their water to be toxic, their air to be toxic, their ground to be toxic. When you can't even go outside and come back in with shoes on because the dust is so toxic inside your house that it will kill you and the animals. And that is the way it's been. There has been a purposefully misinformed public about what has been going on in the city of Eugene. In the city of Eugene, there has been Baxter, J.H. Baxter. They have contaminated the entire, not just Chainsaw, but the entire city of Eugene with the same types of chemicals that were nobody was allowed to, the misinformation was given and there was no information. Information was withheld. And guess what happens to air? Guess what happens to contamination? It goes all over Eugene. It goes everywhere. It doesn't just stay in one neighborhood because, politicians say, you know what, we're gonna black line or red line or everybody across on this side of the tracks, they're the ones that are only being impacted. Oh, hell no. That's not exactly what's going on. All of you guys have been impacted. You just don't know about it. You don't know because there's been it's been withheld. Now slowly the information's coming out, but I want you to know that this is the reason why I'm in this fight. I don't give, I really don't care a whole lot about, thank you to the council and everything. I do care. Let me tell you what I do care about. I do care about informing the public. I believe that the public has a right to know. Have a right to know if you are safe and if your children are safe, regardless of where you live. And let me just bring one thing to attention, is that, they were going to build a biofuel station in Eugene right next to the train tracks. Guess what? Somebody has a bad day, they flick a cigarette, boom, the whole thing would have gone up. And guess what else? They fart. The whole thing would have gone up. I just believe
Thank you, Rosanna.
Thank you so much.
Our next speakers are Paul Rusher, followed by David Vanderhagen.
Good evening, President Evans. Good to see you again, and good evening, councilors. Thank you very much for the invitation to come and for looking over the applications for all the boards and groups. I'm here tonight because I applied for a position on the Toxics Board. My background is completely enmeshed in atmospheric science, climate, and water resources and water quality. I did my graduate work at Oregon State, where I did a master's and PhD in atmospheric science and a postdoc there as well. Then I moved to Tallahassee, Florida, and taught for 25 years as a professor at Florida State University. And when I was ready to retire, the first place I wanted to come back to was Oregon. I settled in Eugene because Lane Community College was starting a new program, and it looked in the ad like it was written for me. It was to be a full-time faculty member, which Earth and Environmental Science did not have, and to start up a program in watershed science for technicians to understand what to look for in water, what to look for in soils, and that in combination with my longstanding volunteer work with agencies in Florida and the federal government in particular, and also as a committed science educator in environmental science, working with K through 12 teachers and doing extensive educational outreach. I just caught the bug for being a volunteer and doing more than just family and work. And it was really, in so many ways, more reinforcing personally to me than the job was that I had, although I've enjoyed teaching all of my life. When I came to Eugene, I fell in love with Eugene. Not that I had done so when I was in Corvallis all those years, but that's okay. We live in South Eugene in Ward 2, and I am just so happy to be in Eugene. I think it's a wonderful community. I'm a data geek, I'm a numbers geek, but I'm also collaborative and understanding and compassionate, and I think we need more of that in anything that impacts public health and environmental justice. Because if you don't have a good understanding of what your toxics inventory is, which is, by the way, a very impressive and, to me, unique experience among cities having their own toxic inventory, you're advancing toxic injustice, I think. Thank you for your service. Thank you for the consideration of my application.
Thank you, Paul. Our next speaker is David Vanderhagen.
Good evening, Council. My name is David Vanderhagen, and I live in Ward 8. I've applied to join the Toxics Board, and I appreciate the Council providing space to consider my candidacy. I've lived in Eugene for over 20 years, and I've worked professionally for Lane Community College, the University of Oregon, the Lane Council of Governments, and Marist Catholic High School. In February 2023, I began in the professional role I have today with Northwest Natural, the state of Oregon's largest energy provider, as the Government and Community Affairs Manager overseeing Lane, Lynn, and Benton counties. My wife and I own a home in Southwest Eugene and are purposefully raising our 2 young children here because we value its quality of life and central location to so many wonderful activities and opportunities across the Willamette Valley. Academically, I have a bachelor's degree in political science and ethnic studies from the U of O, as well as a master's of education in prevention science, also from the U of O. I'm an infinite thinker and always look to critically examine systems and structures, as well as what motivated their design, implementation, plus how they impact people and communities intentionally and unintentionally. Further, I have served on City of Eugene boards and commissions before, including 6 years on the Cultural Services Advisory Committee, 1 year on the Human Rights Commission, and 2 years on the board of the Santa Clara Community Organization. Also, Civil Education Foundation and do government affairs work for the Chambers of Commerce in Eugene, Springfield, Albany, and Corvallis. As we all know, the policy landscape locally and statewide and at the federal level is very fluid. Equally fluid are the impacts and potential impacts of policy on individuals, businesses, and communities. My primary interest in serving as a Toxics Board member is to ensure the program's policies as outlined are operating with an appropriate level of enforcement and interpretation so that the city and community members can discern outcomes over time and draw actionable data-informed conclusions and next steps as a result. Further, engagement with the businesses affected must allow them to openly communicate and call out any perceived shortcomings from their perspectives so that an appropriate discourse is in place for all. Finally, policy, interpretation, and implementation can often veer in different directions, and I would work hard to ensure the program is functioning as it should for those on both ends of the spectrum. During my time of service, it is my goal to ensure the Toxics Board is appropriately interpreting federal policy and appropriately enforcing it locally, so as to guarantee all connected to this work, from those disclosing information to those paying fees, to those volunteering to serve, to those staffing the work, are able to transparently and thoughtfully build on Eugene's existing legacy of advocacy, action, activism, and engagement. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, David. We are now moving on to our Planning Commission applicants. Planning Commission applicants, remember that there will be questions after your applicant statement, so stay at the podium. Our first speaker is Chloe Chapman, followed by Roger Hamilton.
Good evening, City Council. My name is Chloe Chapman, and I would like to be a member of the City of Eugene Planning Commission. I am many things within this community: a commercial lender with Summit Bank, where I specialize in affordable housing, a board commissioner with Homes for Good, an MBA graduate of the University of Oregon, a runner and a gardener, and most importantly, the mother of my 4-year-old twin boys. I have called Eugene home for nearly 10 years. As I experience daily in my work in the finance and affordable housing sectors, we are at a time of great challenge and opportunity in the city of Eugene. There is a lot of suffering in our town, alongside innovation, hope, and tenacity from the hundreds of people working tirelessly to give everyone a home. The challenges we face stay in the front of my mind, and yet when I was preparing this statement, I realized that what I wanted to share with you were the things that I love about this town, what makes it my home. So without further ado, here's my top 5 list of reasons that I love Eugene. Number 1, my children love Eugene. We can hike in our neighborhood, bike along the river, see friends at a dozen parks that they know by name. Last month, we made it to the top of Spencer Butte for the first time, where they whooped with delight. Their life is so good here, and so my life is good here too. Number 2, my colleagues, friends, and families love Eugene. We are a passionate community, and we want to make our town a better place. We have the best local businesses and nonprofits. We come together in times of need, as I have witnessed during wildfires and ice storms. I am energized by the people I spend my days with in this town. I have never been happier professionally or personally. Number 3, the city is wild. Eagles, owls, foxes, deer, turkeys. For 2 years in a row, we've had a family of Cooper's hawks raise their adolescents in our yard. Sometimes morels grow under our trees. We are integrated into nature, and it lights up our lives. 4, this town has an unparalleled arts community. Steampunk art exhibits, choral ensembles, jazz ballet, Pink Floyd at the Cuthbert. It's all here, and it's all welcome. Number 5, the entire town is physically accessible with minimal congestion, and I cannot emphasize enough the improvement to quality of life that comes with not sitting in traffic for hours a day. We left Seattle in 2015 for this reason. My network is broad. My friends live across town in a way that we couldn't in other West Coast cities, and that makes our community stronger. My love of this town is what motivates me to give back. I want the best parts of Eugene to be accessible to all of its residents, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to join the Planning Commission. As many others do, I envision a Eugene of increased equitable prosperity. I recognize that city planning, which governs the town's sustainable growth, is foundational to realizing this dream. I believe that my experience in finance, real estate, housing, and community building will enable me to contribute meaningfully. Thank you so much for this time. I have 5 seconds. It's been really inspiring to hear the people behind me, too. This has been really special. Thank you.
Don't go anywhere.
Oh, 3 questions.
Yes, we've got some questions, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn to Councilor Kaczynski, and then we're going to bounce back with Councilor Groves, and then I'll go back and forth that way. So, Councilor Kaczynski.
Thank you. What key issues would you hope to address as a member of the Planning Commission?
Yes, I have 3 that come front of mind for me. So the first one, as you could probably hear from my statement, is housing. I think that the Planning Commission has a key role in helping the housing crisis that we're in. But I want to be clear, too, that the housing deficit in Eugene, it's not just focused on our homeless community, even though it's really important that we serve our homeless community. It's the entire spectrum: transitional housing, permanent supportive housing, market rate, middle housing, all of it. We just need to build more. So I think that that's one of the focuses. The other focus would be infrastructure for increasing our ability to grow our businesses, grow our nonprofits, really increase our community. I know that a lot of businesses want to expand or move to town, and they can't because of infrastructure constraints, so creative solutions for that. And then the third one that I would say is probably climate resiliency. So the wildfires in LA really caught my attention, as they did so many people. That can happen here, right? Many of us live under trees. And so I think that thinking in a way that addresses our planning and is also thinking in terms of just being resilient to disasters as they come and trying to prevent them as best as we can would be yeah.
Councilor Groves.
Thank you, Council President. Good evening.
Good evening.
As a group, the Planning Commission often works on lengthy processes and decisions. Describe your skills, experience, and approach that will assist you in working in a constructive and collaborative manner.
Oh my gosh. I'll share an example of something that just happened on Friday. It's a project I've been working on for 3 years. So as a commercial lender, I have a background in nonprofits, so I'm kind of an accidental banker. I stumbled into banking while getting my MBA at the U of O. And one of the things that I've been really happy to do at the bank is really expand our ability to do lending, construction lending for affordable home ownership. So I've had the amazing opportunity to partner with a nonprofit that's local here, but they do all work all throughout Oregon, to build community land trust permanently affordable housing. That in itself, I'm not sure if anyone is familiar with the community land trust model. That takes, right there, you're talking about at least 5 or 6 partnerships, folks that have to work together, including the construction lender. The bank has to get involved. So you're working with the state, you're working at the county level, the city level, you're working with the nonprofit, and then you're also working with the folks that are eventually going to be living in these communities too, making sure that they're ready to come together. So on Friday, the opportunity to actually take my twins to the ribbon cutting of 10 permanently affordable homes up in Milwaukie, Oregon, which is the first one that I've actually seen from start to finish. I got involved in 2022. And now, like as we speak, these homes are going to be, the median housing income up there, or housing price up there is like $600,000, and these homes sell for $300,000 to first-time home buyers. So a project like that, you have to see things at this sort of macro social level, really understand that there's a lot of emotions when it comes to housing. You know, it's people's homes, and it's work that a lot of people in Oregon have been doing for a long time. But you also have to have incredible technical attention to detail and be able to track all of that as well, to make sure that you check all of the boxes of all of the partners to get the funding through and to get the homes built.
And our third question, Councilor Clark.
Good evening. The Planning Commission must often consider and balance complex issues when reviewing planning documents and making land use decisions. In your opinion, what are the most important factors, excuse me, for planning commission to consider in these efforts?
See if I answer your question correctly. So I think one of the things that I've learned about being a commercial lender, especially in the housing sector, where I'm literally reading deed restrictions and sometimes looking at, you know, OHCS may have, Oregon Housing Community Services, OHCS may have recorded something 30 years ago, trying to make sense of all of that. One of the things that I think can be a bit of a barrier, it's really important to weigh all of the details, to take the time to understand it, print things out, read your documents carefully, take notes, ask questions, and all of that. But it's also really important to have a level of transparency. So I had a lot of, to be honest, imposter syndrome when I first started doing this work. I thought, oh gosh, I don't have a degree in this. Like, it's all a lot of, you know, gibberish to me. But then when I took the time to start really asking the right questions, understanding, doing the research, you realize that a lot of this is just lingo. All you need is a glossary, right? And so what is really important to me is that as a planning commission, you know, we're interfacing with the city is what I would imagine. And so speaking in a way that's accessible to everybody, really taking the time to just to share information. You can be a translator. I do that a lot as a lender. I think that's really important. So that's something that I really value and I think I could bring to this. Did that answer your question?
It does.
Okay.
Well done. Thank you.
Chloe, thank you, and we'll be in touch.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your service too.
Next up is Roger Hamilton, followed by Brooke Standifer.
Thank you, councilors, for considering my application to the Planning Commission and also for your service to making this a magnificent city. My wife of 55 years and I have lived in Ward 2 of Eugene for 33 years. We came from Eastern Oregon, Klamath County, and that's a story that will be obvious as I go through some of my qualifications. I've really spent the last 40 years of my adult life in public service on both sides of the table, both appealing to the mercies of planning commissions and others, and also as a commissioner, a county commissioner in Klamath County. In Klamath County, the commissioners are ex officio members of the Planning Commission. So I spent 8 years on the Planning Commission during those 2 terms. And I was also appointed at about at the same time to the State Parks and Recreation Commission, which was a sort of a balancing act between conservatives and environmentalists with respect to, this is the first ever Parks and Recreation Commission. And my focus there was turning rails into trails and looking at new park acquisitions. Councilor Zelenka may remember that I was appointed to the Oregon Public Utility Commission about 30 years ago. We both grayed a little bit since that time. 2 terms. The commission was this commission was a world leader thanks to work that had been done by my fellow commissioners before I arrived. And we were particularly well-versed in integrated resource planning, which is another form of planning, not directly related to land use planning, but with some connections. Did workshops in China, Russia, and Brazil because of our ability to try to explain how to regulate private utilities, which were just being privatized at the time, particularly in Russia. I was then, after my 9 years on the commission, I served as Governor Kitzhaber's energy and water advisor during the Klamath water crisis. In my whole political career, the Klamath River sort of runs through it. After that time, after I retired from state service, I developed nonprofit workshops with climate scientists based on river basins and projections and planning for how to deal with adaptation for climate impacts.
Thank you, Roger.
And resilience. And I've got to say that at the time, the scientists were lowballing the impacts that we're already seeing now. What we're seeing now was what we thought we were going to see in 2040 and 2050.
3 questions for you.
Yes.
Councilor Zelenka, and then Councilor Ye, and then I'll come back to Councilor Leach.
See you again, Roger. What key issues would you hope to address as a member of the Planning Commission?
2, because there are a lot. I'm particularly interested in walkability, transportation, which is linked in many ways to the other issue, which would be housing affordability for obvious reasons. The sustainability issue is, of course, another one. And I probably got off of my retirement and gardening in the backyard, in some ways motivated by the incredible federal indifference and outright hostility to reducing greenhouse gas emissions.
Councilor Ye, your mic, please.
Oh, that's embarrassing. All right. As a group, the Planning Commission often works on lengthy processes and decisions. Describe your skills, experience, and approach that will assist you in working in a constructive, collaborative manner.
Well, I had to learn how to collaborate very quickly as the only Democrat on the Klamath County Board of Commissions, maybe the last Democrat. And also in the State Parks and Recreation Committee, and also actually on the Oregon Public Utility Commission, collaboration, because we were basically an executive body of 3 on both of those commissions. Collaboration was essential, reaching consensus, trying to also the commissioner I actually taught, and I have to admit that I don't remember all the technical issues that we discussed, but I taught a course in small group decision making. You know, learn that 7 people are the make the best decisions. 5 is a little bit more difficult, and more than 7, you really can't get much done. But I think that kind of collaborative thing is necessary. Also, of course, studying. I mean, with a planning commission, you're looking at, it's a regulatory commission, and you're looking at the various protocols for land use in your comprehensive land use plan. I should also mention that as in my service as a Klamath County Commissioner, the Senate Bill 100, the Land Conservation Development Commission, was just born. And we had to bring acknowledgement for our plan to the board, to LCDC. And just before then, before I was elected commissioner, a crowd of people who thought Klamath County was going to be socialized by land use planning went up to Salem with pitchforks and whatnot to demonstrate. To them, the essential reason for planning is that you have certainty. And of course, I'm talking about rural Klamath County now as a county commissioner. You have certainty about what your businesses are going to be. If you're going to be raising pigs, you don't want to be next to a residential area or a cluster of houses that are going to complain about that. And that's actually how land use was born in Oregon.
Thank you, Roger.
And Councilor Leach.
The Planning Commission must often consider and balance complex issues when reviewing planning documents and making land use decisions. In your opinion, what are the most important factors for the Planning Commission to consider in these efforts?
Well, one certainly is clusters of neighborhoods that have accessibility to open space, have accessibility to services and to businesses. And I really like your planning documents, and you've done so much already, and the Planning Commission has done so much already, in keying in on that need to have mixed development, mixed incomes, housing, multifamily housing, along with single residents, and also to just basically make a community that is accessible and walkable rather than a community that depends on automobile traffic. I'm very keen on automobile-free zones after my recent trip to Norway and Finland, and also because I have family near Burlington, Vermont, which has a wonderful automobile-free zone, Church Street.
Thank you, Roger.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is Brooke Standifer, followed by Kathleen Yang.
Hi, I'm Brooke Standifer, and I'm seeking an appointment to the Planning Commission. I'll start with my background and qualifications. I'm an electrical engineer with an MBA and 12 years of leadership in sustainability strategy and decarbonization for some of the largest corporations and utilities in the United States. I've spent the last 2 years steeped in real estate development, land use, and construction here in Lane County. I've been in Lane County for about 13 years, but I was remote for most of that time. I'm happy to be more embedded in the community now. My engineering background gives me an analytical and technical skill set that I can apply to complicated land use projects, infrastructure requirements, and environmental considerations. My MBA and business enterprise experience allows me to apply an economic and community lens and to see the impacts of the planning decisions on both the economy and our community. I am particularly skilled at distilling complex information and digging into new topics and areas of focus to support or advise on data-driven decisions, to help with problem solving and even conflict resolution. My experience as a leader and a mid-level manager, as well as my experience as a consultant, has allowed me to work with a diversity of stakeholders, everyone from the CEO of a company to the frontline staff and members of the community. I'm also deeply curious and really enjoy learning. One of the things that I'm excited about with this opportunity is the ability to learn more about planning and the planning process, which brings me to why I applied. I actually applied because I'm deeply interested in serving my community, and I can't imagine a more important or impactful way to do that than through land use and planning decisions that are going to shape the future growth and development of this city that I love, and apparently most people here really love as well. It seems like a common theme. And this is a place where I'm raising my children and where I hope to live until the end of my days. So I want to make a really big impact here. One of the things that was recommended in the email was to say like what I hope to accomplish. And this really isn't about me. What I hope to accomplish is to serve my community and to support you and staff in important issues that impact the livability of Eugene. So with that, thank you for inviting me to speak. I know there's 3 more questions, but I would be honored to serve on the Planning Commission.
Thank you, Brooke. And then we're going to start the questions off with Councilor Kaczynski.
Thank you. What key issues would you hope to address as a member of the Planning Commission?
Yeah. So these are printed out. I just want you to know I didn't steal Chloe's answer because they're exactly the same 3. But affordable housing is number 1, and not just capital A affordable. We have a housing shortage, and we need housing at all levels. Number 2 is transportation and infrastructure. Our population will continue to grow, and we need infrastructure that can support that growth. The 3rd is climate change and sustainability. So not just continued decarbonization, but like as Chloe said, climate resilience, whether we're talking about ice storms or wildfires, we are facing unprecedented climate events, and our city needs to be prepared for them.
Okay. Councilor Groves.
Thank you, Council President. Good evening. As a group, the Planning Commission often works on lengthy processes and decisions. Describe your skills, experience, and approach that will assist you in working in a constructive and collaborative manner.
Well, as I mentioned, I have extensive experience in mid-level management. My last corporate role, I was over 4 departments and responsible for 75 people. I've been in a number of team environments where sometimes we are working kind of under a democratic process, other times it's consensus-based. And it really depends on the situation and the activity that we're approaching, what problems we're trying to solve, and what our shared vision is. I think that a collaborative process where you have different perspectives is really helpful. I think that the outcome is improved when all voices are heard. It can sometimes take longer when you're working with a team, but I think that the outcome is better because of it.
Councilor Clark.
Good evening. The Planning Commission must often consider and balance complex issues when reviewing planning documents and making land use decisions. In your opinion, what are the most important factors for the Planning Commission to consider in these efforts?
I think respect for the process is really important while keeping an open mind. So I'm personally interested in the intersection of policy and implementation. And I think it's really important to consider the intention of land use and the development code and reconcile that with the vision for Eugene and the vision for growth and development. I hope to serve on the Planning Commission and be faced with challenges that force us to consider things maybe that we haven't thought of, and be able to present thoughtful recommendations to you about those challenges.
Thank you, Brooke. Our next and final applicant we'll be hearing from today is Kathleen Yang.
I'm always the last to go with my last name, but good evening, City Council members. My name is Kathleen Yang. I'm honored to be the last candidate for the Planning Commission. I'm a first-generation immigrant who came to the United States at the age of 20. I have a degree in biochemistry from UC Berkeley, followed by a medical degree from UC San Francisco. I'm a fellowship-trained GY oncologist from Stanford and UCSF. Eugene has been my home for the last 15 years. I live in Ward 2. I raise my 2 children here. I'm a full-time oncologist at Willamette Valley Cancer Institute. I treat women with gynecologic cancers. Outside my own group, I'm a leader in the local medical community. I was the department chair for general surgery and surgical subspecialties at Riverbend. I'm the current chair of the robotic surgery at Riverbend. I was the first female surgeon to reach the 1,000 robotic cases, and then later the first one to reach 2,000 robotic cases in the state of Oregon. I helped put Eugene on the map to be the regional powerhouse for robotic surgery. Outside medicine, community service is a big part of my life. I was a board member of the Oregon Cancer Foundation. I volunteer with my children for Positive Community Kitchen in Food for Lane County. I've joined Medical Mission in Guatemala 3 years in a row with the local Cascade Medical team. I'm here tonight because I believe that decisions were made by those who show up. I also believe that smart and thoughtful planning can change lives and transform a city. I believe that I bring data-driven mindset and a unique perspective from my medical background. I also bring empathy, which is deeply rooted in my personal experience as a first-generation immigrant, as well as a physician frequently interacting with my patients. I understand housing insecurity, and I understand economic hardship, sometimes occurring in the midst of a health crisis. And I know how important it is to include those voices when planning our city's future. I aspire to a Eugene that's prosperous, diverse, walkable, green, accessible, and affordable to all, and without losing the character and charm that brought many of us to this city. I will be honored to participate and contribute my experience and perspective and heart towards that. Thank you for this opportunity.
Dr. Yang, we've got 3 questions for you. Councilor Zelenka, you want to start us off?
Sure. Can you tell us what key issues you would hope to address as member of the Planning Commission?
I have 3 key issues that I would like to focus on if I am elected. First is the housing needs and increased housing production in this region. Besides the target that was set with the housing production strategy, my focus would be on compact development, increasing residential density, and part of that would be the increased residential development in the downtown region. I'm a big fan of the village-style micro-housing model. The second issue that I'll be focusing on would be to help implementing the urban growth strategies that was set in the comprehensive plan. And specifically, I would like to see that we promote land use efficiency by creating some of the climate-friendly housing, promoting low-carbon lifestyles. The last one that I would focus on would be the sustainability. And I'm a big fan of the multi-use, mixed-use neighborhoods, the 20-minute neighborhoods. So that would be my motto. Thank you.
Hey. Councilor Ye.
All right, last question. The Planning Commission must often consider and balance complex issues when reviewing planning documents and making land use decisions. In your opinion, what are the most important factors for the Planning Commission to consider in these efforts?
3 things to think about. First is public engagement. I think that we need to listen to diverse voices, and sometimes we have to actively seek out marginalized group from the input. Second is to respect science, respect data, and trust the assessment that we get from supportive advisory groups. And number 3, and part of the most important thing is behind the zoning and planning documents, it's actually people. It's the residents that we directly or indirectly impact. So it's always important to keep that in mind. At the end of the day, it's about people. Thank you. And I know there's one more question. No problem.
Counselor Leach.
Thank you for being flexible. As a group, the Planning Commission often works on lengthy processes and decisions. Describe your skills, experience, and approach that will assist you in working in a constructive, collaborative manner.
As you know, I do not have a traditional planning background. My background's in medicine. But first and most important, I think that I'm a very good listener and I'm a very good communicator. Came naturally with my profession. So I think that's the most important thing. Number two, as a physician and surgeon, I deal day in and day out with weighing pros and cons. So I'm really good at, evaluating the complexity of the issues and hear people from very different perspectives and different interests. And I have lots of transferable skills from my work in the hospital as one of the hospital leader. I was department chair. I have a department that has 350 providers, surgeons from very different groups and different subspecialties. And often we have competing interests, but very limited resources. So it's actually it's a comfortable thing that I do to balance those interests and conflicts, navigate them, and reach a sensible solution.
Thank you, Dr. Yang. And I believe we have nothing else for the good of the order. We're done. We are adjourned until 7:30. Thank you.